I saw on LinkedIn today, there's a creator there that's like top culture LinkedIn voice, and he creates like shares a lot of like cool things brands are doing. So that's kind of on point with what we're talking about today with community. But his agency just got acquired. Like, I didn't see all the details, but he has his own agency. I think it's a creative agency, and he got acquired by a larger agency. I think. And his name's Joylan Varley. But I thought it was kind of cool because his whole brand, he's like posts a ton on LinkedIn. I feel like that's probably why the success of his company was because of his posting. Not, I mean, he's probably been successful in the industry for a long time, but it's kind of cool to see an agency model kind of really powered by a LinkedIn voice that allowed him to get acquired by a company, which is kind of cool. Like, there's probably not a ton of acquires that have been powered by kind of like your efforts on LinkedIn up to this point, because it's kind of a newer creator economy, kind of. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm sure that's something we'll see a lot more in the coming years, and that's really exciting. I mean, everybody I talked to is like, LinkedIn, like, I wasn't sure about it at first, but it is really like the place to be and the place to accelerate your business, like no matter what business you're in. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. And I just think it's interesting too, because the creators on there aren't just typical creators like on other platforms, like either like a person in high school or something. Like, they're actual professionals. Like, this person has probably had many a success in his career, but this extra boost to allow him to kind of build a personal brand on LinkedIn. But at the end of the day, he's like a really powerful, creative professional himself. And so it's kind of cool to see how the creators on LinkedIn are not just creators, but they're like brand partners and company builders and founders. I think that's kind of a new breed of creator that like the world hasn't fully tapped into yet, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, I'd love to see it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Kind of going perfectly into our topic today, like community engine, to help like to power up companies in 2026. I think community is obviously no new thing. Community has been around for a long time, but in the era of fast moving social media and crazy algorithms and AI, it's just an ever changing topic, and companies are really leaning into it. And it's really like the need to stand out today and really kind of get users and grow revenues. And so I guess my kind of first initial thought and question was, how should companies in the AI era tap into community?
I think it really comes down to what is your goal as a company? And also, what is your goal for what your community should look like? One of my favorite companies that does community like super, super well is Stanley. I like the Stanley Cups, which I know are kind of they're not as big of a thing as they used to be, but I just love how they just ran with it. Like did you see that video? It was years ago. That girl posted a video of her car that like got in a car crash. Car like burnt to a crisp, was on fire, just like totally destroyed, and her Stanley Cup was, like, sitting in the middle, and it was, like, perfectly intact, and she's even said her ice was still, like, completely intact inside the cup, and Stanley, I had thought that that was, like, a PR stunt. They, like, set that up, but looking into it, it was, like, totally natural. It was just, like, a thing that just happened to happen, and they took it and they ran with it, and they bought this girl, like, a whole new car, and they, like, pivoted using that as kind of a, like, jumping board to this crazy popularity that they had for years and years, where they were selling out everywhere, and it was just, like, the craze, it was the trend, everybody had a Stanley Cup, everybody was collecting every Stanley Cup they could possibly find, and I loved that Stanley knew, "Okay, like, our audience used to be this customer, but now we've got this new potential of a customer. We have this new potential of community," and they harnessed that community using TikTok mainly and just ran with it, and it was so successful. I think they, like, quadrupled their valuation in, like, a year or something insane like that because they knew their community, they knew what they wanted as their community, and they, like, went all in on it. So that's one of my favorite examples. Do you have an example you liked?
Yeah. What kind of came to mind is I think it was North Face. They had someone that was like on top mountain. I think the North Face jacket like didn't work. Like, I think it was like rainy and they really got soaked or something. And then North Face ended up, it was like some crazy thing. Like, they ended up like taking a plane or helicopter to the top of the mountain to like deliver this new coat. And it was like this whole thing, like basically showing up for their community. I think because consumer brands have had so much competition for so long, they've had to have like a higher standard of showing up for their people and their community, especially in the social media era where B2B, it's been harder and more cumbersome to build technology. It's been just more bloated and not as much players in the market. And so the community and all of like the being there for your people hasn't been as big of a thing. It's been more just like webinars and just like FAQs and just like a heavy customer service. But now, because it's just as easy to build tech more than ever, it's like, okay, the companies that actually show up for their people is way more important. And that's kind of where I feel like companies are now, because they're kind of feeling that B2C consumer vibe of it's like easier than ever to build products. Like they're having to kind of reach their people in new avenues and build those communities and really lean into the people side, especially now, like, AI is making it easier than ever. Like there's more noise, there's more content, there's more products. I think the companies that are like really leaning into the people side is so key and so important. And it's really apparent the ones that are doing that. Like a couple companies I can think of is Clay. Like they kind of lean into that people model so much from the top. Varen posting consistently on LinkedIn, showing up to events around the world, and even down the list of having them do like more of these community events where they partner with people and local people to put on these events, which grabs their local communities to have the events and kind of giving them the like Clay expert vibe all the way down, of course, like influencer marketing and all those things. I think they're kind of just hitting it from all levels. And they've been like definitely a darling across SaaS of this past couple of years that they've grown and really lean into that.
Yeah. I think that power, like you're mentioning, the power comes from when the brand is no longer trying to create the community, but the community itself is promoting and growing the community, where it just takes off and becomes its own thing. And I think that it's a really cool thing when the brand can kind of be able to, once they built it, step back, be like, hey, this is what we've set up, and let them take the reins and let them be the evangelist for the brand and let them really like promote it. I really love how Notion has done this as well. They have their template library, and they also have, I think Clay does the same thing too, where you can be like a Notion expert or a Clay expert. And it's not only like a cool title, but it gets people really excited about the brand and wanting to naturally just share it with other people. So I think that's the power, is if you can figure out a system or some sort of program to get your community super, super involved so that they want to help lead your community naturally. I think that's the power there.
Yeah, I know. I like it. I like even too, Zapier had their big event where they took a bunch of creators and thought leaders and like people to, I think it was Wyoming. It wasn't Jackson Hole. I can't remember. Maybe it was Utah. I can't remember. Something like that. Where I feel like I've talked about this like honestly for a couple of years now, where so many consumer brands have done brand trips and things like that for so long. But I think now there's a really cool opportunity for these big companies to kind of lean into that experience because it's so new. Like if you get invited to a brand trip with the company, you're so excited to like actually go on this brand trip and like post a bunch of content about it. Like even beyond, let's say, an influencer brief, you might get a couple posts that you have to do. But like these folks were like posting about it and talking about it and commenting on each other's way beyond like any probably brief that they were given. I think that there's kind of just excitement around that. Same with like the Billion Creator Summit. Like that's a cool example of an event doing that well, where they're like flying creators out and there's just like grand experience that people are so excited about because it hasn't been done yet. Like this is a new untapped audience that has a really engaged followers because they haven't been doing a lot of things over the years, and really professional audience. They're getting flown out and it's like this cool experience. And so I think the brands and BB brands being able to kind of look and study what have been done for the past 10 years in the B2C route and really instill that on their B2B route in their own kind of professional manner, I think it's like definitely an easy way for brands to kind of lean into kind of that community building right now.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I think too, it's something that when you tap into those creators and you get the creators genuinely excited, their audiences feel that. You can totally feel the difference between when you're scrolling and you see a partnership that just is like, oh, cool, they got paid to talk about that, versus a creator that gets a PR package or, like you said, goes to an event and they are genuinely so excited. Their audience feels that and their audience gets excited because their audience loves that creator. There's a reason they're following and, interacting with this audience and with this creator. So I think that that's the key there, is just to make it exciting, make it new, make it fun, something different. We saw it a lot last year with Tan last summer and all these creators that got flown out with brands, and that was such a new thing. people could not stop talking about it for weeks and weeks. And finally, after weeks, I started seeing posts of people like, can we stop talking about this? Because all everybody's been talking about for weeks, but it really, really works. It's really fascinating. I think this year we're going to see on an even larger scale. We're going to see even not just these larger events creators getting invited to, but these smaller ones, and maybe even possibly creators heading events for these brands. Like we see this in B2C all the time where creators will do their own events for brands, and then promote the brand while they're there and get their audience together, do meet and greets, do that kind of thing. I think we'll see that in B2B this year too.
Yeah. My question for you too, following up on that is, let's say, like, what would the playbook you would tell to two different companies? One company has big budgets wanting to invest into community, and one company, more startup, has smaller budgets, but also still wanting to kind of invest into community. What's the two playbooks you would give each company?
I think it doesn't matter your budget. I would give actually the same plan to both companies regardless of budget. And I think it's twofold. I'd say part one, start or create a place for your community to gather. So it could look like just LinkedIn, or it could look like social media where your community already is. Or if it's budding somewhere else, it could look like Reddit, Discord, Slack. These tools are all free or really cheap to get going on. And I think that that's powerful to have a place for your community to gather. Second side of that, I'd say invest in those creators that are going to be passionate about your brand. Not that just fit, but that are going to be really passionate and show that excitement. And I think regardless of small or large budget, we're really seeing a huge effect of niche small creators on ROI as investing in this creator economy. The big creators, the millions and millions of followers, like, of course they're impactful, but these smaller creators have much more dedicated audiences often. And we see that the ROI on those are actually greater oftentimes than the larger creators. So I'd say regardless of your budget, invest in those smaller creators. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I like it. I think smaller budgets for both honestly, for both companies, I would have like 5, 6, 7, 8, depending on the size of your company, employees dedicated to posted on LinkedIn. One founder employee, you'll hear about the brand every once in a while. But if you have 8 people posting about your brand and things you're doing behind the scenes, the team, like, you're unmissable on LinkedIn. Like, there's no way people won't be able to see you. There's a bunch of companies doing this really well. HubSpot, ClickUp, it's pretty cool to see. So I would say small company, big company, having those like 8 people internally posting about what you're doing, really, really cool. That looks like an action is actually giving time per week, or even a resource, like a back-end person, like helping with the content or helping with the ideas. So either giving like time to your employees or giving them an internal resource, because it's really a full-time job, like creating and posting and creating and posting. So like kind of dedicating some time or some folks into that. But if there's a bigger company too, and you're wanting to kind of like turbocharge your community building with some money, I would say same thing, have your employees post, but also bring in creators into the mix too. So I would say like find, depending on your budget, like 10 to 20 creators that are kind of brought in as like creators in residence, where you kind of like do some small tests here and there, one post, 3 posts, kind of see how it works with them and making sure they're easy to work with. But the ones that are the best, like, bring them on as like full-time creators. They can still have their other day jobs or their other agencies or whatever they're working on, but coming in and doing multiple posts a month, doing things where they come behind the scenes and they like, or a videographer and like basically an extension of your team and your media company. And then also coming to the events, sitting in the booth so they can bring their own friends to come out to the events too. And then really kind of having those 1 or 2 folks that kind of come on top as your champion, kind of what SoFi did. They brought in Vivian too as like a bit like head creator at their company. She built like this incredible group of incredible audience out across many platforms. And so I would kind of like have a group of creators that are actually like extensions of your teams that you bring on and you have that kind of already have that community and that built up. So I would definitely say that, and using the creators for not just their audience, but also their creativity and their vision and outside view on what you're building. And even like these folks are professionals too, like getting their thoughts on like how you can improve your own marketing. Like really, you have them as creators, like tap into their minds, like tap into how they're building tap into how they built their own audiences. Like have each one give a talk to your own employees about the best practices of posting. Like because you already have them in the mix, you're able to kind of actually get more out of them. And actually they're probably pretty excited too to like share what they know. Like we do this all the time. Like we're always understanding like what content works or what algorithm change, and to have them kind of share that with your team. I think they'd be pretty excited about that too.
Yeah, I like that idea. That's a good one.
Thanks. So like as I was discussing too, a lot of community building starts from the top up. The founder or the CEO or an executive posting and really being that like drumbeat of content. Question for you, what would be like the prescribed process that you would tell a company to allow their founder or their CEO or exec to post on social media? It's not an easy thing. It takes a ton of time. Like if you're a CEO, you have so much going on. So how would you advise a company to make that happen much easier?
And that's a good question. Yeah, CEOs are busy. Again, that's one of the people why they also start posting, right? But I think the impact is way more than a lot of people realize until they start doing it. I think that you can just start small. It doesn't have to be these crazy long written posts every day. Just get started with a system that works for you. Maybe 10 minutes a week just to sit down and write something with the purpose of showing who you really are as a CEO. I think that's what people want to see. They don't want to see more about this is what my company does, this is all about our product. Like that's awesome. But I think people want to see the people behind all of this. They want to get to know you as a leader in your company. That's what people really care about. I think it's really fascinating. There's a trend going around right now. I don't know if you've seen on LinkedIn where people are posting their daily schedules. And it's what time do they wake up? What do they do? When do they eat breakfast in the morning? Like when do they actually work? What do their hours look like? And people are posting this no matter what industry they're in. And it is going crazy off the charts, impactful with impressions way beyond what people are normally getting. Not because people are more interested in what the person's doing, but because they're interested in the person themselves. People think it's fascinating. It is fascinating. As humans, we love to learn about other people. We're social creatures. We want to hear about what are you like? What do you like to do? Why do you do what you do? Show me your personality. Show me your humor. So I think just starting from who are you? What do you do? I think in the past, especially with B2C brands and in decades prior before social media, we didn't see the CEOs as much, but we had mascots. We had different jingles and different things that kind of stuck in your head and made you realize what the brand's all about. And nowadays that focus is social media and that focus is who are you? So that's what I'd say. Just start small, start with something about you.
Yeah. I would say I think the newest companies that are going to win in the next couple of years are going to have like a full videographer or media team that kind of follows around the CEO every day, and makes it basically like a Netflix style series of like what's going on behind the scenes, like constant video and snapshots and the cool things in the backgrounds, and follows around and makes it like a high quality like TV show behind the scenes, like building a company and like the wins and the losses and like a whole story arc of like when they go to actually like announce their raise are showing like the grinds from 6, 7, 8 months ago and behind the scenes. Like I think it's gonna be really cool, the folks that kind of, because we all know community is like the dominant way to go to market today. And it's like actually the only way, because it's just the actual way to get out of the noise and connect to the people that actually need your products. But I think eventually these brands will start investing into having like a full-time videographer and like creating some really cool content that is long form, short form, really, really short form, just more beautiful pieces that are unique, not AI created, cuts through the noise, just like really shows behind the scenes. And I think that'll be a big bet. We'll see kind of more startup and even larger companies do in the next year or two.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. What would you then say for a company that's starting smaller? They don't have the budget for that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's not as much budgets, I don't think that's a problem at all. Like, social media doesn't need a ton of money. I think it will just take a little bit of mind share from the founders. So maybe having someone that's internally hired that's maybe not a full-time videographer, but someone that's like built a social media account in their teams. Like they built up like kind of more of a fan base account or something cool like on their resume where they're basically more fluent in social media, and hire them on as sure maybe they're doing some ops coordination, but also the one kind of creating behind the scenes, like taking that video content. Like you don't need to be professional to grab photos behind the scenes, like grab videos behind the scenes to create some cool content. So I think the smaller the budgets, the less like crazy premium Netflix style. The larger the budgets, like the more premium. But if it's smaller budgets, you can still create like really cool behind the scenes shots and short videos and catching up with trends and getting people on the trends. And so I think it's a really good opportunity, no matter the budget, for kind of to tap into that.
Love it. Especially with them being everywhere right now and totally full on in the workforce. Everybody's got social media experts. So we're
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Well, community, I think, is definitely a thing every company needs to tap into. And the companies that are going to do it well this year will be definitely on top in 2027. Well, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.